everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be playing Dragon Smuggler Surprise here using Twinflame Tyrant. That is a dragon. Dragon's actually not in its name, but it is a dragon creature there, along with Calamity, Galloping, Inferno. The combo very quickly is to get both of these into play at the same time, and the way this ends up working is with Calamity's ability. It has haste, it is a 4/6, but whenever it attacks while saddled, choose a non-legendary creature that's saddled at this turn. We create a tapped and attacking copy of that creature, and we do it an additional time, so it'll make 2 copies of the creature that we use to saddle it, which will be Twinflame Tyrant. Twinflame Tyrant is a very, very awesome card. 5 mana, deals double damage, and is a 3/5. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage instead. However, the key here is, because of the way that Calamity works, making 2 extra copies of Twinflame, the first one will be tapped down, so it will not be attacking, but it'll make 2 copies of this tapping and attacking, and it does happen to have flying, so that 3 damage is going to get doubled 3 separate times. So what will happen is 3 damage will become 6, and then 6 will get doubled again to 12, and then 12 will get doubled again to 24. So each Twinflame Tyrant in the air that Calamity made attacking will deal 24 damage apiece, and then that adds up to 48. And Calamity will even do more than that, with 4 going to 8, 8 going to 16, and then 16 going to 32, which is obviously quite larger than Twinflame Tyrant. It's kind of crazy when you start squaring a number how much 1 extra starting number does matter, which is quite crazy. Wow, struggling. However, how do we kind of do this? Well, our initial plan is hopefully to have Llanowar Elves in our opener, as that matters a lot, and we get to play this a 1 mana creature, as we pay 1 mana to do it, and it produces 1 mana. Hopefully it does not get removed. And then we want to play an Overlord on 3, or just do a ramp like a Glimpse, maybe even add a second Llanowar Elves in play. And then hopefully we're leaning into a Roxanne on turn 3, which makes a Meteorite, which with Roxanne in play, that Meteorite normally taps for a mana. Roxanne then makes it tap for 2 mana, so we get a lot more value out of that thing as well, and can theoretically have 7 mana when we untap on turn 4 to abuse the card Smuggler Surprise. Is it abuse of a card if it's like doing its intended purpose, by the way? Like, we're supposed to be cheating in creatures, right? So is that abusing it? I don't know. With that said, this is a spree card that came out in the Outlaws. We have 1 green in the corner. We're going to be using the 5 mana mode in the bottom, so 6 mana in total. You may put 2 creature cards from your hand directly onto the battlefield, and as we already discussed, we have Twinflame Tyrant, we have Calamity. Those are most likely the options that we're putting in. Outside of that, Calamity, along with a Vaultborn Tyrant, a Trumpeting Carnosaur, or Enduring Courage are also pretty awesome to do, as Courage does a little bit weird math, as the 2 copies you make with it, one will be a 5/3 and the other one will be a 7/3, so it's a little bit weird, but that is a big chunk of damage. Along with that, Calamity attacking. Carnosaurs are making 2 7/6s with Trample that are attacking and then discovering, so who knows, maybe we'll even hit a Twinflame with those attacking, and it might even be better. And then we also have the Vaultborn Tyrant for that really nice life gain, and whenever you do that, you get like 5 triggers and you're drawing a ton of cards and getting a lot of life very, very quickly. Outside of that, we have Burst Lightning, Scorching Dragonfire, kind of its removal. Burst Lightning's pretty sweet with Twinflame, as it just generically does 4. If we kick it, it does 8. And then Scorching Dragonfire does 6 if we have a Twinflame in play, but 3 overall, and it just exiles right away. And then Glimpse the ramp. Another cool little kind of fun thing in the deck is that this says a source at all does not have to be a permanent that we control or something like that, so that's why these deal more damage. But the kind of discard effect on Carnosaur also does more damage, so we're able to, in this video, shoot an Atraxa for 3 with this, set it to 1, and attack through it with the Trampler, which is very cool. So outside of that, the cuts or maybe adds that we have talked about is Tranquil Frillback, which I talk about in the outro, and the Overlord is the cut for right now. I talk a bit more in the outro, so if you're interested in why I cut those, that's definitely where you'll find that information. Other than that, we're going to go game, see how it goes, and I hope you all enjoy. Okay, well, we are at opening hands, and I guess I'm going to keep, and my opponent's going to be forced to keep, and they run out of time, and they're immediately here. Surprise, surprise, said absolutely no one. They ran out of time. It passed to my turn, and then they immediately snap off and start playing the game. Okay. Not my opponent. Smile. I am going to attack so they don't feel obligated to put a burn spell on our Llanowar Elves to try to get it out of the way, which oftentimes does actually end up happening, but we'll see. They go for a challenger, get hit for a bit. That land is actually fantastic, or that draw is fantastic, because now I'll just put a 6/5 in the way. And as obviously, I feel like Llanowar Elves is very, very unlikely to die here. So we are probably going to be able to Smuggler Surprise in my Carnosaur along with my Calamity, and then just cause absolute mayhem. They already played a land for this turn. They attack with just that, which kind of tells me it's probably not great. They could have monster trades. They go for a shock here. Sure. That's okay. I guess it's just this. Yeah. Do this. Okay, this will happen. We'll just fire it off here. And we're going to hope for good stuff to happen here, I guess. We'll attack. Make 2 more 7/6s, and my opponent leaves. Okay. So our opponent, in their opening hand, decided they were going to tank all the way out. I take my turn. They immediately play as though they were here the entire time. And we win the game. Sick. All right, our opponent goes first. We have Llanowar Elves and the Overlord. We're definitely going to try to keep this because it does offer a lot. Looks like Simic Bounce, if I had to guess. Or Simic, I don't even, what do we even call this? Simic Spell Slinger? I don't know. Simic Graveyard Matters. Simic Tolarian Terror. Beanstalk. Monsters. Stuff. But thankfully, the thing we know that they do not play for a kind of a fact is the fact that they don't really play counter magic. Now, obviously, any opponent at any point on Arena could definitely be playing it. That is kind of the thing that gives you the leg up sometimes, is playing cards that your opponent obviously does not expect. But with one land in the graveyard, a Beanstalk online, we don't have to necessarily worry about the big spells coming down quite anytime soon. Sleight of Hand being one of those kind of awkward cards as well, where it is a very good 1 mana card. This deck is really missing the card Consider, where it's like 1 mana, instant speed, like, you know, Surveil 1, but it's okay. It's all okay. We have 5 mana here. Obviously, we're going to play what somebody called Courage the Cowardly Dog, which I absolutely loved. And they might obviously stagger us for the turn. Obviously, this town ain't big enough. Picking up the Beanstalk and making us recast the Courage is definitely a good option for them. But we're just going to continue to play out the stuff as we can, and then like have a Carnosaur be played. Because the thing with our deck is, without just consistently bouncing everything we do, it's going to be very tough for them to kind of beat our creatures whenever we get the value. Like a Vaultborn Tyrant's not a fun creature to bounce because it just gives us value, right? So they have to kind of decide. This is instep. They do Cash Grab, which is even slightly better. There's a Tolarian Terror, which they probably pick up. That'll be 3 spells, unless they pick up a Storm Chaser's Talent, which does also make a lot of sense. So this should be 3 less right now. 1, 2, 3. It does say instant sorcery, right? Yeah, so that puts this at 4 mana, which it could definitely cast here. But we'll see. With our mana, we're probably going to opt for a Carnosaur, because Carnosaur could hit, you know, another Overlord, a Roxanne, things like that, that just give us more and more and more mana. A Bushwhack to find a land. Now the card is 3 mana, if I am thinking correctly, which I believe I am. But with that said, we can also Calamity, play it, copy the Courage. What do the tokens do? Huh. I really thought about that with the Courage. Like, what happens to this token? I would assume nothing happens. But, like, something could happen. You know what I mean? But with that said, we only have 6 mana here. So we're going to opt to play this Carnosaur. We're going to try to get value regardless. Now, if they want to bounce the Courage, but they have to use a Beanstalk and they don't have a 1 mana card, they're going to have a little bit of issues. But Carnosaur enters. Now, Carnosaur does have haste. Carnosaur also being one of those creatures you don't really want to bounce too often. Yeah, I will put that in my hand. So now we just need extra mana, per se. So here's a crab. Okay, that's pretty good. Maybe they can just crab close the game out, I guess is a way to do it. We have 6 mana. We can activate the Smuggler Surprise, put in this Vaultborn Tyrant, and then I guess maybe even a Calamity, but I guess I want it to... has to be power 4 or greater, so this actually does fit the bill. I would like to draw a land, though, to give my creatures hexproof. Because I'd love to play this with this, and then Smuggler Surprise this, and then attack, and then when the tokens die, or the creatures die, they'll come back, and then I'll gain a lot of life, so we're not necessarily vulnerable to just, like, dying to a double crab tap down, or something kind of similar to that. There's always ifs, ands, or buts about it, but hopefully we draw that land like we said. If not, I feel like we're still probably Smuggler Surprising, putting in Calamity and the Vaultborn Tyrant. I would assume we have the Overlord coming off of its kind of suspend, if you would. Does that actually read as suspend? Impending? They called it different, but it's time counters, which is what suspend uses. Weird. Okay. I mean, it's fine. They attack with the crab. Alright, so they either have bounce effects or more crabs, which is a fun phrase to say out loud. This also should be like 1 mana now, right? Or are they still short? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's still 3 mana. So isn't the crab. They could cast 1 more spell. They elect not to. Okay. Well. Do this. What is it supposed to be? The Tyrant and Carnosaur? I can always play this on a following turn. It'll always have haste, right? I guess it should be these two. I don't, with an Enduring Courage in play, I don't want to tap an additional creature, even though it does give me extra. This is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if we can really lose this matchup, per se. It just feels incredibly hard to. Because, like, unless they're quick about their aggression or have, like, a Storm Chaser's talent and say they bounce this a couple of times, it's very hard to end up losing this match. Especially because this stayed around for so long. They can never remove this now. Like, they obviously could. They could bounce it or whatever and set it back. But there are very clear and other opposing threats that are on the battlefield right now. These get haste this turn. They all have trample, so it's not like even a 5/5 can stop them, right? Like, 6/6, 7/6, 7/6. It's just all going to be lethal. It's going to be 9/9. And then this is going to go up to 8. And it's just going to be so much damage coming across the board. So we'll take that win. Very cool. We'll know what this will entail. We'll fire Llanowar Elves off. Obviously, at some point, we need to find something. Especially if this is the Omniscience combo deck. As more often than not, it's going to be. Wow. Would you look at that? That is fine, I guess. It's obviously not fine per se, but at least we can hold double burst lightning on a future turn, I suppose, and then try to win that way. We'll hit for 1. They obviously have a Abuelos, so they're just going to play 2 more lands and then go for it if they can put an Omniscience in the graveyard this coming turn, or even on my end step, for example. We'll attack. They'll bounce. I'll replay. It's just fine. Like, there's not a whole lot I can do. I have to try to win as fast as possible. Last zone land. They surveilled both to the bottom. We'll play our Llanowar Elves back out. And then it looks like they probably have a fairy here. Or just like a Moment of Truth or something. A Picklock Prankster. Yep. Don't worry. They found 2 Abuelos. That's for sure. Maybe they'll pick up the Confounding Riddle, which we can answer one of, but maybe they'll go for second Abuelos, which I doubt. Definitely feel like it's the counter spell here, because they obviously know I'm not doing anything. Obviously, I'd love to play something like a Tranquil Throwback on one of these turns, but just not going to be able to find any value there. They don't go for it, which is interesting enough. I think. But now we can obviously discard a Carnosaur, which isn't actually counterable, which is quite interesting. But they go for this because it is 4 cards. They'll officially be through the top 23 of their cards. Then I would assume it's in there. No. Okay. That's something for the home team, I guess. We obviously all know as soon as I would play a Carnosaur here, we'd end up losing. I will do this though, as weird as that sounds. As long as I can keep attacking with my 1/1, I know it's not much, but it could matter, right? Doing the 3rd damage could end up mattering a ton. They finally play a creature to block out. They're almost halfway through their deck. They haven't found an Omniscience, or if they have, it's in their hand. And now we have a choice to make. To attempt to win the game or attempt to do whatever. And I think we have to attempt to win the game. So I'm going to play this Carnosaur. Hope it's good enough. I just don't know. You know what I mean? It's just one of those small scenarios where it's like, if we wait any longer, they just keep getting to mill forever. And then if we don't go quick enough, like we just never get there, right? Now, they don't have one in hand, so this could be a Charter Course. Put it right in there. Any 2-mana spell could definitely do it here, and we might lose. Some may argue we're supposed to wait. I feel like they haven't hit it yet. It is what it is. I don't know. Not sure in general. But also if it's... Okay. So they're going for something here. They have 1 mana. Which should, in theory, mean we have this win. Unless they have a bounce spell, which they have that, right? Then I have double burst lightning. Okay. Because Calamity's an attack trigger. That's always good. Have 1 mana. We play here. This goes here. Move to combat. We attack out. Now this can happen, but Calamity is already attacked. This is going to go face. You never know. This last 2 mana could matter everything. It could be everything. First lightning. Dome. We cannot do the kicker part. We'd have to pay that part. Overlord comes in, I guess. And so now it's the same amount of damage regardless of what they do here. But if they bounce, say, this. Let's look here. Let's just make sure we have it wrapped up. Say they use this. They bounce here. We have 11 damage here. Well, I guess they block here. So we have 11 here. And then we have 4 damage here. So we have it covered. We win that game. Should we have won that game? No. But on the same boat as this happening, I mean, how many times have we played against the Omniscience deck and they've put it in the graveyard immediately and just won right away? Like, I don't know. It's happened to me quite often. Like the first mill card they do or whatever, they put one right in there. Then they reanimate it on turn 4 and I lose. But thankfully we get there. Okay. Obviously this isn't the most like... Actually, this hand's like kind of exciting. This hand's pretty cool. We'll play land, we'll ramp, and then we can play like an Overlord or something. It looks like we have the Simic bounce deck again. So maybe we can kind of prove our theory if we're pretty good against that matchup. It looks like it's so far playing kind of out the same, although our hand with the Llanowar Elves in comparison to this was absolutely bonkers, where we would have got to play this on turn 2, play this on turn 3, and then we'd be like into a Vaultborn Tyrant already. They're playing Archaeologist. Are we reenact a crime? I mean, we almost have to be, right? There's no other answer. Like an everywhere land, we'll just hold up this burst lightning. I mean, I can beat an Atraxa. Atraxa is not the problem. It's all the problems they bring along with the Atraxa. Pounding, sure. I would assume this means no mana. Okay. Oh, there's Squirming Emergence. We just now see the black mana. Okay. That is fine. Just in case we're mana deprived later, I'm going to go face here. A second Overlord, but I think to some extent Roxanne is better. Actually, I guess it's technically the Overlord that's better, right? Because Calamity can do that, but this makes 2 mana where Overlord only makes 1 mana. Because with Roxanne, this taps for 2. And plus attacking with this also gives me an additional 2. But Squirming Emergence is going to happen now. They found the black mana, I would assume. Or not the black mana. They found the black mana, so I would assume they have the Squirming Emergence. I don't see one in here. Lumra can come back and bring out, like, I don't know, like 30 lands, it looks like. It's obviously not 30, but it feels that way. But if they do that and I do get the Smuggler surprise, that would be pretty cool. Nowhere to run being played. But yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, I guess it's not even that, like, many lands comparatively, right? Sure. 1 mana. They can bounce some stuff, but that's fine. You can only bounce it on attackers, so it's fine with me. Attack. They can obviously bounce this in response, but that's okay with us. So we're going to make 2 more Vaultborn Tyrants, which is nice. Going to be a draw a lot of ton. Going to be a draw a crazy amount. That crazy amount is 5. Which seems pretty good to me. Hopefully we find like a land out of one of these so I can play something else out here. Or not. Okay. We did find one. I was like, boy. Lands would be great here. Obviously these have trample, so they have a decision to make. Are they going to bounce one of these and block the Calamity? Maybe. These are tokens, so their clauses don't matter. Technically. Nowhere to run goes, but they keep the top card, so that top card's probably Squirming Emergence. But if they go for an Atraxa, we just don't care, right? Because the problem is the Calamity's still in play, and Twinflame Tyrant is definitely more than enough to win here. Like, Twinflame Tyrant is up in, like, the 50s to, like, hundreds of damage based on what's on our board. Into the Flood Maul, maybe bouncing the Calamity here. Definitely might have the additional land. But I'd argue the problem still stands for the most part. With this Trampler and whatnot, and the Twin Flame potentially happening. They elect not to cast? Also, they don't have the mana. Okay. But the only reanimate thing I can think of that's even remotely good here is Atraxa. Which means if Calamity lives, we're fine. Let's see what happens. They do have a land. They have a Bitter Triumph. There is no 1 mana bounce spell in this hand. So we should be fine. Theory. That could be a bounce land. This would be absolutely devastating. Are you going to bounce the Calamity now? Okay, this should tell us everything we need to know. That they do indeed have a bounce effect. Which bouncing Calamity doesn't do anything because it has haste. Does it go to discard? No, they don't. Never mind. Why did I feel like they had to go to discard? Not quite sure. Land here, and now we have decisions to make. I can play a Twin Flame. I can attack with the Tyrant and then Carnosaur shoot the Atraxa. And have the Tyrant hit them for a ton as well. I guess that makes sense. In paper, you know. Let's play the Twin Flame. Either way, if they also block my Calamity, which I can also tap the Twin Flame here. That doesn't make a difference, right? Here. Bouncing Calamity. No. Combat. If this makes the copies of Twin Flame, the game is over. There's not going to be a whole lot they could do about it. Into the Flood Maul bounce. Okay. This is 12 damage off of our Tyrant. This is 6 damage off of our Carnosaur. Because it is a red source whenever we discard it to deal damage. So actually, this is lethal. I believe. Or close. The Llanowar Elves should attack anyway. Let's direct this at Atraxa. I say it's going to be close. It's not like super close, but it's going to be close. Now that comes up, and now they have a whole board to deal with. They only have 4 mana currently in play. So they would have to Squirming Emergence, bring Atraxa back out, find a land and have Bitter Triumph. And then if we find a Squirming Emergence, it doesn't matter at all. If we find a second Twinflame, then that's also huge. If we find a burn spell, that's also huge with the Twinflame in play. They go for Atraxa number 2. There's another card that's a problem. This card's a problem. I mean, I guess it's between Bitter Triumph and then Whale, but Whale's probably the better choice because they get to look. I can't even tell what's in their hand. There's so many cards. They go for double black and a blue that's open. So Whale could be cast. Bitter Triumph could also be cast. A lot of things that could happen. We could obviously lose to the Jace Mill. That is kind of a problem, right? Like overall. None of this other stuff really has haste. Squirming Emergence. Or not Squirming Emergence. A Smuggler Surprise is best card. Best card, not close. Just by far best card. We only have like 1 Trampler. Again, they're at what now? They're at 12? No, they're way more than 12, right? No, they're only at 12. Right? Well, Enduring Courage is definitely a good answer to a lot of our problems here. I can play this. Is it an answer to our problems? Well, I guess Llanowar Elves can also tap, right? This, we're losing 1 creature. If it's anything, it's going to be the Twinflame Tyrant. So we have to have enough to get through said interaction with Twinflame Tyrant not being removed. There's no world in which I could play this plus another thing, I don't think. I can do the same kind of sack, but I have way more on board, right? Do I just play this and attack with it then? This is 6. I have 3 left, and then I can Trumpeting Carnosaur the Atraxa again. I guess so. Then we can try to just win like via the normal way. Draw another card here. Move to combat. Realistically, I guess tapping the Llanowar Elves could be a way to go. Because that does give me technically like a slightly more damage, but nothing like so crazy substantial that it matters. But we're here on this. Again, Twinflame is by far the most important card on the battlefield. They seem to recognize that. Okay, so we are going to fire off this. That's now 1. And they have to block, I don't know, Calamity, I guess? No, they can't block Calamity. They have to block the Overlord. And then they'll go to 1. Yeah, so Calamity making a copy of the Llanowar Elves actually would have been everything. It would have been lethal. Because then even if they remove Calamity or Twinflame, yeah, that kind of sucks. But, I mean, it is what it is. I messed up a little bit. Happens. It was kind of one of those things where, like, when you think of this card, you never really think, oh, adding an extra Llanowar Elves that'll do 1 more damage is going to be the deciding factor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily that reasonable. I mean, we'll just discard the Copperline Gorge. Now they have a Bitter Triumph to get rid of Calamity, but they still need 2 removal spells or another way to bring back Atraxa for the 3rd time. Oh, they also got rid of the Jaces. I guess I didn't even realize that. Oh, I guess you can bring back 1. Sure. They didn't have many of these before, and then they just hard cast Atraxa. Is this once a turn or only during your turns? Yeah, it's their turns. Okay. So Atraxa's in play, but the problem is it does not have a chance of beating us here, I believe. Unless they have a bounce spell, which they do, because of course they do. So we'll play here. Can I play this and that? That's 6, 7 mana. Yes, I can. And I play that, and then I play a Tyrant. This isn't legendary, so that's pretty important. And pretty important stat. Llanowar Elf can be used to cast this one, because this will be slightly bigger, which will matter. And then I will make a copy of this instead. I will move to combat, and I'll attack with these. They have 8 life in total. This, again, this trigger will resolve regardless. And then these will enter, and then they will give the other, they'll do 10 in total. So they can block one of them, and then just the Vaultborn Tyrant itself is lethal. They can block Calamity here, and then the 2 Courages are lethal. At least I'm pretty positive they'll be lethal, but obviously could be wrong. Obviously this game all comes off the back of me messing up earlier, but... Oh yeah, also, I guess the other Enduring Courage will also pump them. Nice. Yeah, one of the weird things that I guess we need to track better in the future is saddle our Calamity with the Llanowar Elves so we can win. Smile. Yeah, we had a good time. Yeah, it was fun. That was actually a really good game. Both, like, even if my opponent would have won there, like, I'm okay with losing whenever it's like actually a game and we actually played Magic, you know. But like I said, we'll move on. All right, we go first. Our hand's a little questionable on like a snap keep, but I will end up keeping. We have a Roxanne, we have Smugglers, we have a little bit of ramp. We just have to go grab a mountain here, which I'm just going to get that out of the way. I don't think it's going to change our opponent's play, especially in best of 1. Oftentimes it doesn't change to the play at all. But we'll see what's happening. Rule. So if I've learned anything, okay, it's Delirium, so I'm not removing that. I mean, I guess I could with the Dragonfire, but I feel like there's no point to. So we're definitely looking to hit a land here. We might even have to barrel the Smuggling Surprise to do so. Ooh. It's every time, man. Every time. Haywire Might. That's a pretty cool card to be playing. This matchup is definitely going to be an awkward one. If I had to bet. This is an artifact creature, so we're okay with this dying. When does this go away? You may play it until the end of your next turn. Okay. I don't really want to use my Smuggler's Surprise if I don't have to. I don't think they'll have protection spells either. We're most likely going to tap out here. I guess we can use this if it does maybe result in us playing a Roxanne, right? I don't know. It's kind of weird. We might have to just play Roxanne, hope it lives, and then go from there. Obviously, Burst Lightning doesn't actually remove the clockwork, so that's the only real issue with that. It's like... Or not... This removes clockwork. It does not remove what we want it to remove. Fear must be blocked if able, and it's a 4/2 with haste. Okay, that's a pretty good card. So our turn is going to work out pretty much how we want. Now the only problem is Delirium will be on after this turn because an enchantment creature is now in the graveyard. So artifact, creature, enchantment, sorcery. So Delirium is active. Thankfully we hit a land. We'll play Roxanne. This puts us at 6. I'm just going to try to minimize as much stuff as I can, make it maybe a little bit more complicated. Valgavoth's Lair, interesting choice. I kind of like that because if you do mill it, obviously it sucks to have that be like your third land drop or your second land drop. If you rip it off the top as your second land for turn. But man, is it not cool? Like when you get it to work the way you want. Oh no. If they have that card, it gets double strike and +1. So this will be what? I mean, they clearly have it, right? So this will be 6. Yeah, we'll ride it. We'll try. Yeah, so 1-0 and double strike. Sure, we go to 9. Do we risk it or not? Yeah, man, we ball, dude. I don't know. Okay. We only have 7 mana, right? So that's 6. Or that's 5. That's 6 and that's 7. Okay. I think I know our plan. We attack. We shoot this. That hits. And then we just do this. And then we leave both of these up. And we keep the one that's untapped. And then we shoot this down. And now we just have to hope. Like, should I have maybe blocked? Probably. I just felt like if we draw a land there, we get the mill over and maybe one-shot them. It's kind of one of the upsides / downsides that we have to play with. Fear of missing out. Okay. Well, we definitely have a chance here. They do get to discard, which triggers NT. A land. Okay. That's good for them. I say, but there's probably no haste here. Smiley face. I was saying, this is super lethal. Okay, so we did it again with this deck. I literally made a comment. Somebody replied, which obviously I always love hearing what happens when you play decks that I've played or decks that are similar, and you know, it's like really high and low kind of territory. But they were like, oh, here's my rank attempt this season to try to play Smuggler Surprise and win. And it's always funny because I know the feeling. I either play this deck and I go 6-0 or 0-6, and it's not close. I either start every game with the Llanowar Elves in my hand, or I start every game with just like a Calamity, a Vaultborn Tyrant, and a Roxanne. And I'm just like, this and 4 lands, that's where we're at on the draw. Yeah, thanks, buddy. I think I'll go ahead and concede for free. Like, I don't need to play that game out. I know how that game ends. But some of the changes I made and some of the changes that I'm actually pretty happy with is what we were playing is this Overlord. And the reason I like this Overlord so much, which I will put it back in the sideboard in case you want to play it. But this Overlord is super good for a lot of reasons. And that is because the 4 damage can go face. If we have a Twinflame in, that's 8 damage. If we have it come in with an Enduring Courage, I mean, we literally play this, deal 4 to them. It has haste for 7. We attack and we can deal 4 to them again because the courage is such a nice card here. But the only problem is not instant speed removal. It is sorcery speed, and oftentimes we do have to tap out. And the way that aggro is, it's so commonly hard to like stop them from doing their game plan. So I kind of substituted it for a Carnosaur. Like, I did the epitome of like, oh, I lost 4 games. I need to change something. And I was like, you know what? These Overlords, I'm just going to change them into Carnosaurs. Maybe it'll do well. The only thing is, like, we can't make these Atalis or something because this doesn't work with legendaries, but that's besides the point. But Carnosaur being able to be discarded to deal 3 damage, and against like an Atraxa with the Twinflame on board, this is doing 6 damage per cycle. And it just becomes like significantly better whenever we're talking about having that kind of stuff online. which I like a lot. So it's very cool. It's a very fun card. Discovering's fun. Cascade's fun. It's, well, hold on. Fun for the player playing the card. Like, it's obviously when your opponent discovers their cascades, you're horrified at what's about to happen. But yeah, so another thing that we ended up changing, which was what somebody recommended as well, and I kind of liked it. Over Torch the Tower, we are playing Scorching Dragonfire because it always does 3. And with going down like a little bit of extra enchantments and not really wanting to sacrifice our meteorites, this can just always hit higher, and it is instant speed, and it can just go towards creatures. I wanted to try it over Torch, and also, like, it sounds small, but Torch doing 6 damage with the Twin Flame is a lot more than, like, a Torch doing 4 damage with the Twin Flame, which is weird but great at the same time, because there are a lot of creatures that do kind of, like, curve out at that 6 drop. For example, Carnosaur's 6 toughness. Overlord's 5, but you don't get there with one, but you do with the other. This also has 6 toughness if we were in the mirror for whatever reason somebody thought playing this was good. But with that said, I don't have a lot more to say. I did rattle off 6 games straight. I didn't record the first one because I was already on like a massive kind of loss streak, and I was like, you know, let me just keep tuning and changing stuff around, seeing what I end up liking, what I end up don't like, and maybe I'll just wait. And when we get a win, I'll then turn the camera on and I'll try recording. As I said, still not far off of what I said from yesterday. So, you know, the mood's still not great. So, honestly, if I just kept losing, I was probably just going to shut the game off and just go to bed. But it did end up going well. So, with that said, I hope you all enjoyed it regardless. But the kind of downside that I will say, this is technically a common card, but this isn't uncommon. This is common. These are rares, mythic, mythic, rare, mythic. Like, this is definitely not a cheap deck. This is a deck that you have to play if you want to have fun playing this deck, and you're willing to go through the highs and lows of winning and losing. As you saw, we were in Diamond. We just rattled off 6 games straight with it. The latter is sometimes forgiving. The latter is sometimes unforgiving. Because if we go back to those games, there's a lot of times which we could have lost. For example, the Omniscience deck could have done it right away. Also, I guess, final note with that. We could also look to play Tranquil Frillback in this deck. This is an option if you are running into that Omniscience deck way too often. You absolutely need answers, or graveyard decks in general. You can just throw these in over some other cards, maybe Courage, because this is like a really cool card, but kind of a card that can somewhat be replaced. And also, like, weirdly enough, with Calamity, this entering the battlefield, if we have green mana, we can also use its ability and gain a lot of life. So it's kind of a cool thing that it can do as well. Maybe you can replace it with like Vaultborn Tyrant, but I love Vaultborn Tyrant and I do not want to replace it. So with that said, I hope you all enjoyed regardless, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.